Welcome back. Welcome back. Moving through the 12-step order of operations, and we're in the second step here. And you'll notice that all of these little, of the 6 steps, there's these little sub-steps. And so what I try to do is just put together a framework for you to work through. Doesn't matter if you are working, if you are retired. Ultimately, I don't know the individuals that are listening to this podcast, and so I want to at least have something for them, and depending on where they are, maybe you're not ready to work with me or work with a financial advisor, but you want to do some self-education, and that's what I'm trying to do is just put tools together, educational resources that are some of them are free, some of them are paid just because of the amount of time that I've put into putting them together. A lot of times when something is free, people do not value it. I value time. You should value your time. And so think about it like this. If you want to invest in yourself, invest in education, whether it's retirement education or working years education, whenever you're accumulating money, you have to figure out what steps do I need to take for my situation. So maybe you don't know what steps you need to take, but you think that you don't have the time to go out and learn it on your own. So what's the point of paying for self-education if you don't have the time to actually implement it? And so I used to think that, nobody needs a financial advisor. And that's coming from a financial advisor. And that's for me that, I spent a lot of time and effort and years learning all this stuff. And then I was like, you know what? Why do people really need a financial advisor? It's not because they can't go out and learn it on their own. It's because of the amount of time savings that the financial advisor is providing, whether it's time around managing an investment portfolio or time spent going out into the financial industry marketplace and finding a valid insurance-based product or some type of investment portfolio or a money manager. That's ultimately the reason for a financial advisor. You can be your own financial advisor, but if you want to pay one, then ultimately that is what I do. So in this episode, we're talking about credit. I don't know if you got good credit, jacked up credit. I'll tell you a quick story. I worked with a lady that it was before I was a financial advisor. I was working at the credit union. This lady came in and she wanted a auto loan. And before I even had the chance to look at her credit report and give her a decision on whether or not we could do it or not, she was breaking out in hives just solely based on the amount of stress and emotion that she has personally experienced dealing with credit. So maybe that's not you. Maybe you have good credit. You're 800 plus. Maybe you've got the elusive 850 credit score that people chase after. But ultimately, let's just say you don't have good credit. Well, how do I even know if I don't have good credit? Well, let's figure it out. Let's go. I'm going to tell you straight where you need to go. Annualcreditreport.com. Don't pay for it. All you got to do is request a copy of your credit report from Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Those are the 3 big bureaus. You get a free copy once a year. So ultimately, you need to see what's on there. The apps like Credit Karma and some of these other tracking apps, that's not your true credit score. It may be close, but it's not your actual credit score. So not to say that they're not a good thing. I use Credit Karma. I think Credit Karma is really good. It's going to give you a ballpark figure of where your credit score is at. It's going to give you recommendations on places to save interest, whether it's personal loans, credit cards, balance transfers. Ultimately, you need to have an idea of what your credit score is. Maybe not at all times. And this is probably anti-Dave Ramsey advice here of, oh, you don't need credit. The reality is you're due. You really need to know what your credit score is. You can call it a relationship with debt score, but, home prices have went up, 20, 30, 40, 50% in the last 5 years. You're not saving cash for something like that unless you come from money. Now, most of us don't come from money. We got to figure out how to leverage credit. So we need to make sure that our credit is in the best possible place. It's in the best possible condition that it can possibly be in. So ultimately, if you have good credit, I'm talking like a 750, 800 plus, you're going to save a lot of money on interest over your financial lifetime. If you blow up your credit, let's just say through a bankruptcy or charge off or some type of late payment, depending on what you've got, late payments are going to stay on there for 2 years and fall off. Bankruptcy is going to be around 10 years. Charge offs are going to be around 7 years. But ultimately, the goal for you is figure out, this is just like a basic financial pulse. This is like your debt to income ratio. That's basic. This is just figuring out where are you with your credit score. It's much easier to go back and rebuild your credit the right way than it is paying some type of credit repair company $100 a month for 6 months, at which point month 6 they say, hey, sorry, we couldn't even get this off your credit report, and now you're out $600. Just if you need help with your credit, this is the best place to do it. Annualcreditreport.com. Request your credit reports from all 3 of them. You can review it. You can request verification that things are on there that maybe they're not supposed to be on there. You can dispute items. You can pay the items. But ultimately, use the tracking apps like Credit Karma and these other phone-based apps and software and stuff. Use them as kind of a reference point, but don't use them as, Credit Karma says I got a 900. Well, Credit Karma is wrong. So it's good for reference, but it's not rock solid. So if you want rock solid credit score, go to the annualcreditreport.com. That's a good place to start. But that's going to be it for this episode. Get your credit right, because ultimately we don't want to go back and fix it.